Afua Hirsch, who surely must think that modern London is just a wonderful place. But honestly, I'm really sick of Afua Hirsch. I'm sick of the fact that she hates Britain, she hates British people, she hates British history, and she would like to demolish it all. Could she just go away, please? Just go away. Just gone. Much in the same way that she's been banned from Whitehall. But we'll talk about that in a minute, because if you want to support us, go to lotus.com and check out my latest premium podcast on cultural colonization. This is just me talking about why they are skin suiting all of the beloved narratives of our places. Particularly the Black Robin Hood really annoyed me. But one of the things I found really stupid was an American, and again, it's always American, isn't it? The American candy stores, the American artist came over and decided to paint a load of paintings of the modern Londoners, as in Black Londoners, in European paintings. And one of them was the Ship of Fools. And it's like, he's put Black Londoners in the Ship of Fools. What a strange
anachronism.
Thing.
Yeah.
But it's I mean, yeah, that's fine. But like, the Ship of Fools was a commentary on the unreformed Catholic Church and how that's degenerate and corrupt. But also, the Ship of Fools itself was something that they used to do in the Middle Ages, which is put the insane people on the ship and then just push them out to sea. And so what's he saying about putting the Black Londoners on the Ship of Fools?
It's a plan to solve the Channel migrants, I assume.
I don't know. Are the Black Londoners fools? Are they corrupt? Are they? Who knows what he was trying to...
Disavow.
Yeah, exactly. I disavow this position. But basically, I'm examining all of this. And it's a really good stream. I'm really proud of it. Anyway, we are also doing... Well, I'm also doing something quite exciting at the end of this month, which is speaking at the Witan, which is Skilding's latest event. There'll be a link in the description if you would like to come along. I don't know how many tickets they've actually got left, so book soon. It's in the West Midlands. You will be emailed the actual address once you purchase a ticket. But it will be very good, and I'll be giving a talk called The Word and the Shire. Should be interesting. I've been putting a lot of thought into this because of all of the reading that I've been doing of everything that you guys know I've been covering. And I think this will be a worthy speech, so fingers crossed. But anyway, let's begin with Afua Hirsch being labelled as an extremist by the government, which I think is a completely fair characterization of her, since she is extremely left-wing. I would call her a communist, frankly, and she seems to desire the complete and total destruction of this country. There seems to be nothing that she hasn't asked for to have destroyed. So this was very amusing, because the Daily Telegraph said that Hirsch was one of the public figures that Jacob Rees-Mogg wants banned from Whitehall. And they say that a paper singled out Hirsch, who's the author of a best-selling book called Brit-ish, as an example of a speaker who should be cancelled. It's like, that's not cancellation. Being banned from cavorting with civil servants in Whitehall is not any form of cancellation, nor is it a violation of your free speech. So deal with it.
I always use, it's not cancellation, I always use the metaphor of you can't keep taking Monopoly money if you've thrown the board over. And at this point, civilization cannot tolerate the revolutionaries who would like to lay dynamite at its foundations. So communists, Nazis, Islamists, etc. No, bye-bye. Just please live somewhere else.
Yep.
Because you're antithetical to the continuation of what we rather like.
Hirsch said, "This sounds sensible." Yes, it does. Good point. I don't know if we need any further statement from you on that, Afua. It does sound sensible. It's a good idea. We shouldn't put communist subverters in the civil service and allow them to spread their ideology. But she says, this sounds sensible until you realise we have a government that regards anti-racism as an extreme ideology.
Yes.
It is. Anti-racism is another word for critical race theory, and critical race theory is a method of imposing communism on our civilization through subversive means, using racial tension as the key to unlock the door. It is extreme by its very nature, and the critical race theorists themselves will tell you that they want extreme and radical change to the civilization, because of course they view the entire civilization as racist, which is of course Afua Hirsch's own position. So yeah, it is extreme because it renders our entire civilization as racist and fit for demolition. That's extreme. Jacob Rees-Mogg is absolutely right to call you an extremist. She says, though, instead, these politicians prefer a highly selective and racist account of history, which is itself extreme. Right, so the normal British account of history is actually the extreme account, and the communist account of history, where everything's racist, is not extreme. Right. And then she complains about, the defenders of free speech are banning it. So this isn't free speech. This is you not having the privilege to go to Whitehall and corrupt people. frankly, deal with it.
It's the principle of reciprocity. If you
Yeah.
don't try and use our own standards against us, okay, we're not going to afford you the same level of tolerance.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
And you've got no obligation to be allowed into Whitehall. And why would you? Would you expect, some sort of Nazi agitator to be allowed into Whitehall as well? No.
I don't want professional grievance mongers
Of any
suckling at the taxpayer teat. Thank you very much.
And I just don't want any kind of socialist, whether it be right wing or left wing socialist, influencing civil servants. They should be
Exiled.
They should be firmly within the British tradition, basically, as the civil servants. But anyway, let's just get onto the view that Afua Hirsch has, just in case you thought I was joking. The racism that killed George Floyd was built in Britain. Right, okay, so now we're responsible for the racist murder of George Floyd.
We haven't made anything in Britain for quite a while, but it's nice to get our manufacturing back, I suppose.
No. She was like, no, hundreds of years ago we built this racism, then we exported it, and then that killed George Floyd. That's her thesis in this. And of course, if you say, well, look, if you're going to move to a country, maybe you should, learn the country's customs, start integrating yourself. She's like, nope, that's racism. Of course, that's racism. No one should have to give up their heritage to fit in. It's like, well, how can you fit into somewhere that you are radically different from? How could that be done, Afua? You're not stupid, but you do sound it when you come to your Guardian articles. But no, integration is now racism. And of course, if you say to her, look, I actually don't think Britain is very racist because, for example, someone like you gets a platform and you've made a good career out of this. She's like, don't tell me Britain's not racist. You're denying my experience.
This is ridiculous on so many levels.
Yeah.
Number one, it looks like, you remember the fake Guardian headline creator that they got banned?
It looks like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, and also number two, the fact that the Guardian has categories: opinion, race. Any other newspaper, it would be, imagine the Telegraph, opinion, race.
Well, Stormfront, opinion, race. It's no different. You were just the.
You said Stormfront rather than Daily Stormer as well, so you got the boys on your mind.
Oh yeah. Good point. Yeah,
but the synergy.
It's the same thing, like Nazi website race. The Guardian race. The Guardian probably also has a category on Israel as well.
Yeah,
which very similar. So just saying, you are the sort of mainstreamed, polite face of leftism. Whereas they're the dark underbelly of leftism, as far as I'm concerned.
You speak the same lexicon.
Exactly, you absolutely do. But this is the thing, Britain's racist, and if you deny that you're racist, then, well, you're a racist. And I've had enough of white people. Shut up, Afua.
Just false consciousness.
And of course, that means that Britain needs to be torn down, starting with Nelson's column. You remember when they started attacking statues a few years ago? Well, Nelson's column should be next. No. Nelson is one of our greatest heroes. We've got HMS Victory on the stand down there, just behind me, because of the Battle of Trafalgar. Sorry, we're not getting rid of him, Afua.
Particularly because it's the only thing visually offsetting that disgusting bit of whipped cream, cherry, fly, and drone that's atop one of the columns in the square. So
the question to Afua is, look, if you hate Britain so much, why do you stay? Which was a question posed to her by Nick Ferrari in 2020.
Of all people.
Of all people, yeah. Nick Ferrari has his moments, but he also has terrible moments.
Yeah.
But this was particularly good. So she's hosting a show here called The Pledge. And let's watch this intro.
In just the last couple of weeks, New York has removed from Central Park the statue of a doctor who tortured enslaved black women. India has brought down Lenin, and Canadians have defaced statues of Queen Victoria. In Britain, Bristol has agreed to rename its famous music hall, removing the name of Edward Colston, one of the nation's most prolific slave traders. Now it's time to take a long, hard look at other hugely problematic figures we continue to glorify, such as Horatio Nelson, Cecil Rhodes, and yes, Winston Churchill.
Okay. For those who can't see it, Nick Ferrari's head is just in his hands. But so there's a few things there. The framing of that, they got rid of Lenin. Canada defaced Queen Victoria.
Basically the same. No different.
Yeah, the man, the man who was eventually responsible for a regime that starved to death 30 million kulaks. Yeah, identical to one of Britain's longest reigning monarchs.
But look at the framing. How could this framing be considered anything other than an enemy of Britain? Saying, look, I want to tear down your icons.
Yeah.
Like, this is what a foreign conqueror would do.
Yeah.
You would never go to another country and be like, oh, this is your great hero, is it? Right, okay, well, I mean, he's problematic, he needs to be torn down. You would never do it because you would view that as an attack on them and their culture and their country, right? And so Afua, look at the smile, the self-satisfied, smug smile of the viper who already has her fangs in you and is pumping the venom into you. She knew that she had the whip hand here. She was like, yeah, this is going to be great. I'm going to call them all a racist. I'm going to be like, tear down your icons, ha, 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 ha. And if you complain, then you just hate black people. That's what it is. She knew she had the upper hand here, right? And she is not prepared for how balls out Nick Ferrari is prepared to go in response. And it is funny watching her. Let's watch the second clip.
I really like you, but I wonder if I can remind you of some words you wrote concerning Britain.
Please do.
Britain. We have moved on from this era no more than the US from its slavery and segregationist past. The difference is that America is now in the midst of a frenzied debate on what to do about it, whereas Britain, in our inertia, arrogance and intellectual laziness, is not.
I don't write much bad, do I?
Well, you could have been a bit snappier, but I won't worry about subbing it. I'm delighted you. Why do you stay in this country? If you take such offence when you see Nelson's column, if you take such offence when you hear Winston Churchill's name, who I would argue, if in the unlikely event that anybody want to have a poll, I would say probably 80 to 90% of people would say that Winston Churchill did a good thing. I'm delighted that I see you at these Thursdays. I'm delighted you up to stand. But if it offends you so much, how do you manage to stay here?
I find that a really strange thing to say. So there's nothing in Britain that bothers you?
Sure, but I don't want to pull it down.
So why is leaving an option?
But I don't want to pull it down.
This is my country. And the reason that I raise this critique is not because I hate Britain, it's because I care about this country.
What?
I know.
Right, so, okay.
Isn't that gold?
For those who are listening to it in audio only, you please have to go and watch this because it was shot like a scene from Requiem for a Dream, where it's slowly fading across the side of her face as the realization dawns. But it's also, I have never heard of a successful relationship with someone where they go, honey, I love you. I love you so much that I want to fundamentally change you.
It's abusive.
Yeah. It's an abusive relationship with the people who actually care about the country.
Yeah, exactly. That would, if she was your wife, and she was like, I love you, but you have to do that. You have to change all of this. You have to start behaving as I tell you to behave. You would be like, no, you're being abused, man. You've got to get out of this relationship. And I love when he says, why do you stay? Her face, you could see like, oh my God.
There specifically, where it pans over as well. It's cinematic in how offended she is.
Yeah, but it's not just offense either. There's the confidence, the smug, I've got you because I'm on the inside of the paradigm and now I'm biting. Suddenly she realizes she's on the outside to Nick Ferrari. You think I'm a foreigner? So, no, worse than that, you're attacking.
Yeah.
You're on the attack against me and my culture. And she's like, oh God, I've been found.
Yeah.
I'm the communist subversive. I'm being kicked out of the club. But the thing is, right, her saying, oh, I love Britain. This is my home, blah, blah, blah. Hasn't always been this way, has it, Afua? That's the thing. Hasn't always been this way.
Oh, she did a Marcus Garvey.
Oh, yes.
Right. Okay.
Oh, yes. Right. So back in 2012, she, of course, thought Britain was a racist country. She didn't like it here. And so she was like, haha, I'm going to go back to Africa. Screw you. I will show you that our parents left Africa, but we're coming home now. It's like, and what are you doing back here? What are you doing back here?
This reminds me of Patrice O'Neill bit where he said, when racists tell me I've got to go back to Africa, that's when I know I'm American, because what am I going to do in Africa? I'm going to fight in a civil war in sweatpants and tuxedo shoes holding a machete. I'm going to look ridiculous.
That's kind of what she ended up saying, yeah. So she points out that, her mother was born and raised in Ghana, came in 1962, I think it was. Right. Married her English father. And she used to claim that she was from the Caribbean because it wasn't cool to be African then.
What?
I guess it's cool to be African now, right? But this is amazing because this is obviously before she went to Africa, right? She says this: friends and relatives in the UK, even those who share my Ghanaian heritage, have repeatedly expressed astonishment at my desire to live in Africa. But the view from Ghana could not be more different. Far from being original, I find myself part of a narrative told with increasing fluency as a steady stream of other European and American passport holders of African descent arrive at Ghana's Kotoka International Airport, collect their worldly possessions from shipping containers at Tema Port, and search for homes in Accra's popular residential areas. They pay up to 2 years rent up front in dollars at London prices and find jobs with a growing number of international companies and professional service providers in Ghana, or more commonly start their own businesses. At some point it ceased to be an individual journey and became a phenomenon with its own label, returnee. It's like, brilliant. That's great. I'm so glad. Listen to that narrative. It must be brilliant in Ghana.
You're basically conscripting yourself into your own heroic journey.
But that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. I want you to go on your heroic journey back to Ghana
Yeah.
and find the happiness that you feel you've been denied because of all of your privilege in Britain. Well, she went to Ghana, and in 2013, she was like, yeah, actually, it's a dump.
Oh, come on.
Well, that's her
It's
article.
true. Yeah, no, it's
her
true.
article.
It's true.
Quote, from someone in Ghana, this is not a good place to live. But we don't want the people in Europe and all those places stop, because this is a waste disposal.
Yes.
unit.
We
Basically,
do offload a load of our...
We
this
do.
This is part of the thing with the solar panels. They're just sending it over there as polluting the groundwater.
Yes. But they don't want them to stop sending the waste because, of course, this is money they need to help make their families a better life. Okay,
They called it Sodom and Gomorrah.
yes.
That's how bad it was. The Ghanaians themselves nicknamed their two cities Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yes.
God.
And so Afua Hirsch's narrative is on one level.
Yeah.
The reality is on another level. And then her experience directly is on a third level. Why did she end up coming back, do you think?
I have...
She
I
says
hesitate
in
to
this,
guess.
she's struggling with her identity, which I'm not surprised with. But she says in this, quote, in Africa, Hirsch hopes to find a place where her broken identity can become whole. But in Kenya, quote, the colonial hierarchy is alive and well. An event at the British High Commissioner's house is completely white except for the author and the black servants. And she says one thing Afua Hirsch doesn't like is white people. So I've come to Africa and I've more white people. God, this is hell. But an empty restaurant that was usually frequented by expatriates, the staff refused to seat her and a black friend. So she was discriminated against by black people in Africa because she's black.
Right. Okay.
So she's like, right, okay. In Senegal, she was attacked by a madman in the market and nobody wanted to help her. I realized these people didn't care if I lived or died. I was just another métis, another foreigner enjoying a lifestyle that for most people was far out of reach.
So this reminds me, we were talking in the previous segment about how cultural alienation from English values has produced barbarism in the streets. And it reminds me of how in Philadelphia, in New York, etc., you see women getting attacked on the train now.
Oh, yeah.
On video. Nobody steps in.
Well, this is what happened to her.
And I can't think of, as a man, I can't think of that as anything but unconscionable.
But that, of course, but that's your English
moral
prejudices.
yeah.
But this was in Kenya and Senegal, right? And so when she got to Ghana, she was robbed. And the robber, she speaks about this in her book, he accidentally grabbed her breast or something. So she felt doubly violated, which I'm sure you would.
Yeah.
Which opens her eyes to how she was perceived by the poor local people. Quote, the look I had seen in the robber's eyes that day, a wild hunger full of hate, I began to see it everywhere. It had always been there. Hirsch realizes after years of searching that Britain is home simply because there is nowhere else to go. Oh, that is interesting.
That is a
isn't it?
crushing realization for someone who wants to demonize their own heritage.
You would think perhaps this would teach her maybe to stop doing down Britain.
Yeah, have some gratitude.
Yep. But anyway, she now posts videos about inequality in Africa, which I find amusing. She talks about how, in Ghana, just 5 minutes away, you've got luxury condos next to these things. So, okay, well, I'm glad you're doing Ghana down now rather than Britain. But anyway, so she came back in 2018. We get the next one, where she says, well, I mean, Britain is my home, my nationality, my frame of reference. Oh, you weren't saying that in 2013, were you? That's a 5-year slap you got from actually going to Africa. I've studied at Oxford and been called to the bar. I have aspired to be both part of its institutions and institutionalized by its aspirations. I love this. Okay, so you were privileged. Right, gotcha. Yep. And so she complains that people are like, yeah, but where are you from? It's like, well, you could just say Britain. I mean, she thinks that this is only something that happens to white people. It's like, really? So when you get a white person who's got a funny accent, people don't ask them where they're from.
Yeah.
I mean, I ask them where they're from.
Well, that's happened to my granddad. He's very politically incorrect. He actually watches the show. And he went in for a blood test because he's not very well. And he's talking to a nurse. I think she was Ghanaian, actually. And he said, oh, whereabouts are you from? They start talking about her family and all that. And the lapse in the conversation, he went, what's quite funny is you didn't get offended when I asked you that. And she went, no, I'd like talking about it. He went, but you know what? You'd never asked me where I'm from. I've got Irish relatives, I've got Jewish relatives, etc. But you never think to ask me. And it's just this parallel interest of, okay, yeah, if someone looks slightly different from you, you might ask them, but it's not malicious. It's just you want to find out about people.
I mean, if you'd gone to Spain, people in Spain, if they couldn't recognize you as being English, would ask you where you were from.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's just something people do to have a mental map of their surroundings.
Yeah.
But anyway, she points out that her dad is he's described himself as mixed race because her dad is half English, half Jewish, because her granddad was a refugee from Germany in the 1930s from the Nazis.
Right.
Again, you just a slight bit of gratitude, you would think.
Oh, that intolerant country, England, who took in Jewish refugees from the Nazis.
It's amazing, right? And so in 2018, again, she's come back and she's like, well, why should I be grateful for being British? It's like, sorry, is that not enough? That Britain will take you and your family in as refugees? And it's not just her grandfather who was a refugee, right? Her grandfather from Ghana read English literature and fell in love with Chaucer, becoming the first person to translate the Canterbury Tales into Twi, a Ghanaian dialect. He returned to Ghana and set up its post-independence education system, but got persecuted by the government there and had to flee to London.
Right.
Both of her grandfathers have been politically persecuted and have sought refuge in London. She's like, well, why should I be grateful about being British?
One by the country you inaccurately romanticize,
Yeah.
another by the ideology that the places you write for inaccurately romanticize. Yeah. Pan-Africanism and socialism don't really seem to work out in practice, do they?
It's incredible, right? And so she's like, he was grateful to the British. Obviously, he was very grateful to the British. So, yeah, I bet he bloody was. I bet both of your grandfathers were, you know. But why should I do that? Why should I do that? Because I don't feel like I'm accepted, because I don't feel like I look like a British person. So, okay, unfortunately for you, there's not a lot you can do about that, right? You look the way you look. That's just the way it is. Maybe just stop getting a big bone in it about it. You know?
That's also not something British people really care about. It's something that you internally care about.
Yeah.
Like you're fighting yourself in the mirror here, love.
And she says, I don't feel grateful for the fact that I don't get beaten up for being black. I have high expectations of this country. I'm proud to admit that. It's like, right, so you're just not happy with this country. Right, okay. Don't know where these expectations are coming from. Don't know why they're not the same expectations your grandfathers both had. Fine. But the question then, okay, right, so you've been to Ghana, you've been to Britain, you hate them both, because they're both awful, apparently. Why not go to Israel?
That's actually a very valid point.
Why not? It's...
Yeah, she has Jewish heritage.
Yeah, it's not white, is it? Israel's not.
Well, it depends on what leftists you're asking.
Well, I guess so, but... And she says this about her Jewish heritage. Sometimes people look disappointed when they see me having heard my name because I'm not Jewish. All right, so, okay. I'm sure there are lots of people in the Jews in the Middle East who are Jewish but not European looking, should we say? But she says, I'm not Jewish because I'm not Jewish. I've never felt, because she says, because I'm not Jewish, I never really felt it's an identity I can own. So she is Jewish, but she never really felt Jewish. But at the same time, it's an identity that follows me everywhere. I deal with it by wanting to find out about it. I'm almost like a shadow member of the Jewish community. They're asking questions. And she's got a great quote in here as well, right? She examines where her grandfather Hans, who swiftly became John when he settled in Kent, was seen as a good immigrant, unlike her mother's parents. Largely, she concludes it was down to skin colour. Ah, yeah, because imagine thinking that in World War II, having a German accent was just inconsequential.
Yeah, a bonus. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. You know, so John, who sounds like he's from Bavaria, didn't get any side eyes.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, oh, he's white. It's fine, lads. You know, honestly, what a skin deep analysis this was. But yeah. So the question though, why not go to Israel? Well, the answer is Israel's also racist. Who could have known?
Right. Okay.
Who could have imagined that Israel was also racist? They deported some illegal African refugees, and so leftists were like, well, racist. Israel's a racist country, of course. The communists thinks that. So everyone thinks that. So everyone's racist, and she doesn't feel at home anywhere. But to be honest with you, I'm just kind of sick of hearing Afua. You know, you're the architect of your own misery here. If you just learn to actually appreciate the things that you have, the privileges that you were given in Britain, then maybe you'd be less of an insufferable person.
If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go over to lotuseaters.com to subscribe to become a premium member on our website, where you'll get lots of exclusive content, like this epochs from Bo and Josh on the Allied's operation in the film A Bridge Too Far. If you'd like to see the rest of the content we're putting out, you can follow us on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.